Toto Wolff finally said the quiet Part 2 loud. After months of protecting his teenager from the noise, the Mercedes boss called Kimi Antonelli's Italian Grand Prix underwhelming, then repeated for emphasis so that nobody missed the point. It was the most direct public verdict he has given all year, and it cuts to the heart of this story. Antonelli is not broken. He is not slow. He is a 19-year-old learning a car that is still being reshaped under him. And that learning curve is as brutal as Formula One ever gets. The comparison that keeps surfacing is the one fans love to grab. If Hamilton and Verstappen looked superhuman as rookies, why does Kimi look mortal? The answer is not romance, it is context. Monza was meant to be Therset after Zandvoort. Instead, the weekend started with a trip through the gravel in second practice that killed his long-run prep. That single mistake had a domino effect. No race sims, nor Hythm, no feel for tire life in traffic. On Sunday, the launch from 6th was poor and the car bogged with wheel spin. He fell to 10th before he'd even settled into the first stint. From there, he chased rather than controlled, picked up multiple track limits warnings, and crossed the lane. 8th. Before a 5-second penalty for crowding, Alex nudged him back to 9th. All of this unfolded while George Russell delivered a clean 5th 30 seconds adrift of the leaders, yet never once flustered. That is the contrast that bites in the debrief. Wolff's critique was not about raw pace. It was about a cycle, early error, lost mileage, rising tension, conservative choices, more errors. A clean weekend in his vocabulary means emptying the backpack. That gets heavier every time. You run wide at the same corner or tangle with the same rival. If you went off on Friday at Alberto, you lift on Saturday. If you got squeezed by Lair last month, you hesitate behind Gasly this month and give up a second. You will never get back. That is how speed evaporates without the stopwatch ever telling you why. Wolff's phrase for the cure is simple. Free him up. The steward's view at Monza was equally curt. When Albon attempted to hang on around the outside into Cura Grande on far fresher tires, Antonelli moved to left and left him with 2 wheels on the grass. The verdict used the phrase, "Every driver hates to read, potentially dangerous." The penalty point and the time penalty were inevitable. Wolff did not defend it. He called it unnecessary because Albon had the grip and the momentum. So the smarter trade was to give up the place and protect the stint. That is racecraft learned the hard way. It is also why Russell, the reference driver inside that garage, looks like the safe pair of hands while Kimi still looks like a promise. It is important to say what this weekend did not change inside Mercedes. There is no wobble on the fundamentals. The team reverted to a suspension configuration that suits Antonelli's feel, and it has helped him unlock more of the car without wrestling it. His qualifying at Monza, just 0.04043 behind Russell, speaks to that the outright speed is there across a single lap. The issue is the scaffolding around it. Get through Friday without beaching the car. Build the long runs. Nail the practice starts. Remove the drama, and the ceiling rises by itself. That is why Wolff could be so blunt in public and still talk about a very high ceiling in the next breath. Both things can be true. You can be underwhelming on the day and still be a future race winner. From the outside, the pressure looks self-inflicted, but that misses another piece of context. 2 world champions have put their names to the skepticism. Jacques Villeneuve said the quiet thing loudly in his usual way. Nico Rosberg echoed it with less theater. When that criticism lands a few days before your home race, and when last year at that same circuit you went off at Parabolic on Friday, then signed your first F1 deal on Sunday, the story writes itself. Mistakes without consequences becomes the headline. It is not entirely fair, and it does not need to be for the pressure to feel real. The job now is to deliver one quiet clinical weekend that starves the narrative of oxygen. The score line against Russell does not help the optics. 2 to 17 in qualifying, 0 to 19 in races if you include sprints. People latch on to a lopsided number because it feels definitive. The last time Russell beat a teammate this comprehensively was 2019 at Williams against Robert Kuba. A comeback story after a life-changing rally crash. That is not the company a touted prodigy wants to keep. Yet even those numbers need context. Most of the damage comes from those Fridays where Antonelli has shortened his own weekend before it even started. Avoid that, and the gap narrows fast. What sits underneath the comparisons to Hamilton and Verstappen kind of nostalgia? Hamilton in 2007 and Verstappen in 2015 were freaks not just of talent, but of circumstance. Hamilton stepped into a McLaren that could fight for a title from his first outing. Verstappen had the rare privilege of a mid-season promotion into a Red Bull that fit him like a glove the moment he touched it. Both had cars that gave them a clear read on their own level. Antonelli's Mercedes is a moving target. The team is still unpicking design choices from the zero-pod era and experimenting to recover a broad setup window. Russell has years of adaptation to that environment. Kimi has months. The car is not a wreck, yet it asks for precision from a rookie, who is still building muscle memory. There is also the calendar and the climate around it. A growing schedule means less recovery time for a youngster trying to reset between bruising weekends. Social noise has never been louder. Every mistake in FP2 becomes a clip that loops for days. In that context, the call from Wolff for talks that reframe Antonelli's mindset makes sense. You do not brute force confidence. You create it with predictable days that end with full-run plans, completed and a car in one piece. One weekend like that and a lot of doubt evaporates. In the shorter term, Baku offers a chance to break the spiral. It's a track he knows. The walls are close, the rhythm is odd, and the place rewards drivers who can shrug off a yesterday and attack the next braking zone with a clean slate. That is Thetist Wolff said in public. Deliver a solid weekend, no heroics, and the fight with Russell and Lair stops being hypothetical. It becomes visible in sector times and pit exit drag races instead of interviews. Mercedes has still not locked its 2026 pair, and nobody inside Brackley is shy about saying Antonelli is central to the long view. That can sound like corporate comfort, but the logic is plain. The ingredients that cannot be taught are already in the car. The race brain that learns when to yield and when to plant. The car will come with mileage. The team has invested years in shepherding him through the junior ladder. The return on that investment does not hinge on one penalty at Curva Grande. If you zoom out, his rookie season reinforces something most fans quietly know. Hamilton and Verstappen were not normal ass rookies. They were lightning in a bottle. Expecting anyone to replicate that inside a Mercedes still finding itself is not analysis. It is wishful thinking. Antonelli's job is not to be Ameth in month 9. It is to show increment by increment that the speed we see on the clean laps can survive the heat of a start, the chaos of a midfield fight, and the fatigue of a race where the tires do the opposite of what you felt on Friday. That is the work. That is how promising rookies become race winners. So, yes, Wolff's verdict stung, and it was meant to. The point was to set the standard without shaking the foundation. Monza was not good enough. The future still looks bright. Strip out the baggage, finish a Friday with a full notebook instead of a flatbed ride. And the conversation around Kimi Antonelli changes very quickly. He does not need a miracle. He needs a boring, flawless weekend that lets the talent do the talking. When that arrives, the Hamilton and Verstappen comparisons will stop beingist as a cudgel and start sounding like what they should have been all along. A reminder that greatness announces itself in many ways, not only in the loudest debut. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below.